Welcome back. It is day 86 of our 90-day New Testament reading plan with New Life Youth. My name is Christian. Thank you for joining me today as we continue our journey in Revelation with today's reading, including chapters 13 and 14. So to fully grasp our reading today, what we really need is some cultural and historical context. John wrote Revelation while he was in Ephesus. And if you were standing at the city center looking out towards the sea, you would have seen this massive gymnasium that was under construction. This gymnasium was commissioned by Domitian, by Emperor Domitian. It was an enormous building project that was supposed to take 100 years to complete. Yet, under Domitian's rule, who he was known for these really aggressive building campaigns. He just got it done. So this project was supposed to take 100 years. He completed it in just 4 years. He completed it in 4 years, which was just crazy. And so now, with that in mind, picture this colossal structure that is rising up seemingly out of the sea, because as you're looking out towards the sea, it looks like it's rising up out of the sea at this rapid pace. And then consider Revelation 13, how that opens. It says, "I saw a beast coming out of the sea. He had 10 horns, 7 heads, 10 crowns on his horns, and on each head a blasphemous name. I saw a beast coming out of the sea." Like for the original readers, this beast from the sea would have immediately symbolized the Roman Empire, with Domitian as its embodiment. In fact, like Domitian was referred to as the beast by historians because of his aggressive building campaigns, because of what he was able to accomplish physically through building these incredible structures. With obviously it wasn't doing it with his own hands, but at the same time, there was another structure that was being built called the Flavian Temple, which also was in honor and dedicated to Domitian. This temple was central to emperor worship. It was in the province of Asia, and here's kind of the connection. I want you to hear this here. In order to buy and sell in the agora, in the marketplace, you needed a stamp of approval. To get the stamp, you had to offer a pinch of incense at the temple, publicly declaring your allegiance to Domitian, to the emperor. So when Revelation 13 mentions this mark of the beast, the original readers would have connected it to this very real, economic and spiritual dilemma. There's this beast rising up out of the sea, Domitian and the Roman Empire, and then you have this beast from the earth, this Flavian temple that is facilitating emperor worship. These are not just abstract symbols that we're thinking about, but this was a reality that the readers were living in. There are these two beasts, and one really bowing to the other. The one out of the earth submitting to the one of the sea is really what's happening there. And then also in chapter 13, John mentions this beast with a fatal wound that was miraculously healed, causing the world to follow it. This is, again, another area where we need some historical context and a callback. And that's what John is alluding to here. Emperor Vespasian, Domitian's father, he ruled from 69 to 79 AD and was famously wounded in the head and was actually expected to die, but he had this miraculous recovery. And so that could be referring to Vespasian. Alternatively, this could also refer to a political chaos following Nero's death, because after Nero's death, the Roman Empire experienced this rapid turnover of emperors with 3 different rulers in less than 2 years. It seemed as though to the world on the outside looking in that the empire was about to collapse, or was collapsing, really a mortal or a fatal wound. But somehow it recovered and grew stronger. Again, the beast's fatal wound is not necessarily some future mystery for us to figure out, because this was a real historical reference for these readers. Let's talk about the mark of the beast for a moment here too. This is one of the most hotly debated future symbols of Revelation that people think to. We're looking for it in news headlines, look into the newspapers to try and see its fulfillment. The question is this Bitcoin? Is it cryptocurrency? is the mark of the beast? Is it a barcode that is on us, or a microchip implanted with our bank accounts connected to it? Is this the COVID vaccine? Remember when the COVID vaccine came out, people were like, don't take it. It's the mark of the beast. Like John, what he's doing is he's not pointing to future technology. John is pointing back to the Old Testament. The mark of the beast is an anti-Shema. That word spelled S-H-E-M-A. The Shema was the Jewish prayer of allegiance to God found in Deuteronomy 6. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. Tie them as symbols on your hands and bind them on your foreheads. Like the mark of the beast mirrors this. It's a counterfeit allegiance. And so it's not about being able to buy and sell. I should say it's not just about being able to buy and sell, but this is about who are you going to worship. In John's day, it was allegiance to Rome, and that was what they were battling with. Am I going to pledge my allegiance to Rome so that I can eat, or am I going to stay faithful to God and reject the emperor and the empire of Rome? But today, it still carries a challenge for us. The question today is, will we bow to the empires of the world, or am I going to remain loyal to God? That is the question for us today. There's also a lot of debate around the number 666, right? John, though, uses this seemingly intentionally and very specific. So John was fluid in Hebrew and Greek. And so in Hebrew, letters correspond with numbers. And I guess you could do that with our alphabet as well, too. A is 1, B is 2, right? But in Hebrew, letters correspond with numbers. And so when you would transliterate Nero Caesar into the Hebrew, the numerical value equals 666. Now, I know we've said over and over, Domitian is the one who is ruling at the time of this writing. And so we're going to kind of get into that, because it's not just about who's ruling, but it's about the Empire of Rome in general. And so for the original readers, though, like this is clearly a reference to Nero, who was a symbol of Rome's corruption and brutality. And think about, even when we talked in 1 Peter, that Nero was the one who kind of set the standard for persecution against believers, executions, all of these things, right? And so even though Domitian is emperor at the time of John's writing, he is really carrying that same spirit of Nero. He is persecuting Christians and holding to this standard that Nero set. And Domitian is even exalting himself as God, much like all the other emperors would have as well. And so I think there's some real symbolism there, but it's really pointing back to historical context that John is referring to. And so this is also echoing Daniel's prophecy. So in Daniel, empires are described as beasts. There's Babylon, there's Persia, later Greece, and Rome. And so the pattern is really clear that nations, when they exalt themselves with power, with wealth, with security, what happens is they become beasts and they consume and they destroy. And this same pattern happens throughout history. There's more than Nero, there's more than Domitian, there's more than Rome, but this pattern repeats itself. History continues to repeat itself. And even today we could ask, and this might strike a chord with some people or be a little bit too close to home, but we would have to ask, is America building an empire? Is America an empire? And building an empire, kind of like Rome was. Like, even when you think about military presence worldwide, America's global influence, economic power, even weapons that we sell and provide to other countries and things like that, blood that has been shed because of America's hands, like, is America really becoming Rome? Are we becoming like Rome? And are we more concerned with empire building than God's kingdom? That is more of a direct point to ourselves or view for ourselves or question for ourselves is, are we more concerned with empire building or with God's kingdom? Because the reality is non-believers are going to act like non-believers. They're going to prop themselves up. I can't expect a non-Christian to act like a Christian. But for myself, am I more concerned with empire building than I am with God's kingdom? Because scripture is clear, like God is not about empire building. Empire props up humans and puts them on the throne. Empire puts myself on the throne and causes me to live opposite of God's calling. It causes me to reject others and to put myself first in all circumstances. And so God's kingdom, though, is calling for humility and dependence on him and so much more, right? And so that's the question, is like, am I more concerned with empire building than I am with God's kingdom? Chapter 13, there's a lot of warning here, beasts of the empire, right? In chapter 14, what that does is it kind of offers us a little more hope. It reveals a vision of the Lamb standing on Mount Zion. It's surrounded by those who are marked with his seal, in contrast to those who are marked by the beast. The challenge is clear here, is like, who will I be marked by? Who will we be marked by? Am I going to pledge my allegiance to the beast of empire, or am I going to stand with the Lamb, faithful and sealed by God? Throughout scripture, we are just reminded over and over, especially when you look at the Old Testament, understand like it's not about empire. It's not about building empire. And Israel, even when they would start to give into the building of empire, that's when they would fall away from God. That's when they would walk away from God. And so following God, it's not about building empire. Obviously, this life is not about empire. Scripture points us away from it, building empire, and points us towards humility, towards reliance on God. And now in the end times, like these believers are walking through, standing firm in our faith and following God until the very end. And so really, though, for today, that wraps up Revelation 13 and 14. There's a lot more we could be digging into. I know I'm just scratching the surface, but that kind of gives us a bit of an overview. And so let us know, though, what are you learning from the text today? What are you learning from your reading? Share with us your thoughts here on YouTube in the comment section below, or you can share with us on the YouVersion Bible Plan if you're following along. And as always, we hope to see you tomorrow.